Come on, the story kicks off with our protagonist Hutch Mansell, who's basically living the definition of a midlife crisis. He's stuck in a dead-end job at his father-in-law's factory, and his home life? It's not much better. His wife Becca thrives in her successful career while he's just there. Their marriage has grown cold. She's even got this pillow wall between them in bed. His son Brady shows little respect, never bothering to greet him. But at least his daughter Sammy still thinks her dad hangs the moon. One night, everything changes. Hutch hears a neighbor's dog barking just as he's about to fall asleep. He goes downstairs to check things out, only to hear intruders in his house. As he tries to call for help, a female intruder points a gun at his face. "Your money. Cash." "Now," she demands, taking his watch. He catches a glimpse of a distinctive tattoo on her wrist. Just when they're about to take his wedding ring, his son Blake charges down the stairs and manages to grab one of the bad guys. The female intruder moves in close with her gun drawn, but Hutch has a golf club in his hands, ready to swing. But he freezes. "Let him go, son." "What?" I said. "Let him go." Blake, following his dad's lead, backs down too. But that doesn't stop the intruder from giving Blake a nasty punch, leaving him with a black eye before they take off. What the dad? When the police arrive, they actually mock Hutch's handling of the situation. "You know, if that was my family," they say, adding to his self-disgust. With his whole family disappointed, Hutch ends up sleeping on the couch downstairs. At least little Sammy keeps him company, chatting about wanting a cat. The next day's business as usual. Hutch misses the garbage truck again. "Come on," he mutters. Blake asks to interview him for a veteran project, but Hutch brushes it off, saying he's just an auditora nobody. Becca suggests Blake talk to his uncle instead. "What about Jay?" "Uncle Char, he was a real soldier." "I didn't mean. Your mom's right." Hutch mentions his grandfather, who has actual war experience. As they're heading out, their neighbor can't resist rubbing it in, bragging about how he would have handled the intruders if it had been his house. "Man, I wish they'd have picked my place, you know. Could have used the exercise," he says, before showing off his new car. At the factory, his brother-in-law Charlie shows up at the door and confronts him about not fighting back. "Now, he says that you had the drop on one of them. Why didn't you take him out?" "I was just trying to keep damage to a minimum." Charlie mockingly points a gun at Hutch's head and then hands it to him. "Keep my sister safe, bro." Hutch tucks the gun away in the fridge. Later, his father-in-law Eddie comes to Hutch to discuss a reasonable offer for him to buy the business. He tells Hutch that after a lifetime of hard work, he wants a great offer. He doesn't understand why Hutch wants to buy the business. "Guess I just want something that's mine, you know." Hutch locks his office and reveals a hidden radio communicator, contacting his supposedly dead brother Harry. Through their conversation, we learn Hutch's true identity. Hutch isn't just some random office guy. He was the FBI's most lethal agent ever, codenamed the Cleaner, because his secret missions never left survivors. When Harry asks why he didn't take down the intruders, Hutch explains he saw how desperate they were and noticed their guns weren't even loaded. Hutch then goes to see his father, who lives alone in a nursing home. Looking at a photo, his father asks him if he remembers the old days. Hutch heads home to find his family at dinner. Blake is still giving him the cold shoulder. The situation escalates when Sammy mentions her missing kitty bracelet was in the bowl with the stolen money. This seemingly small detail ignites something in Hutch. He goes back to his father's place and digs out the old man's FBI badge and gun from a closet box. His father knows exactly what his son is about to do. "I hear is this thing I got to do. Then you best go do it." Hutch hits every tattoo joint in town. At the last one, he flashes the ancient badge and just gets laughed at by some vet. "Your ID too." Badge expired by about 20 years. The owner tries to intimidate him, but Hutch plays it cool, waves some cash, and tries to solve it with money. Everything changes when an old man spots Hutch's wrist tattoo. Thank you for your service." The old man stammers and practically runs out, locking the door behind him. Suddenly, the owner's attitude does a complete turn. "How can I help you?" With the address in hand, Hutch tracks down the intruders and greets the man with a punch to the face. Gun to the guy's head, he demands his watch and the cat bracelet. They return the watch, but genuinely don't know anything about the bracelet. Just as Hutch is about to pull the trigger, their sick kid starts crying. The sight of the baby with an oxygen mask stops him cold and he leaves. His anger still burns, but his trigger finger stays steady. Hutch loses it completely, repeatedly punching the wall in frustration. To clear his head, he jumps on a bus, but trouble isn't done with him yet. A car pulls up alongside, and 5 thugs force the bus to stop. T here is a young girl sitting alone, and you can see the fear in the female driver's eyes as she's forced to open the door. These guys start throwing their weight around, playing the intimidation game with the passengers. Hutch is just chilling in the back, watching it all go down. But when these punks circle the girl, something clicks. He stands up, cuts right through their little pack like they're not even there. Cool as ice, he tells the driver to step out, locks up the doors, and turns to face these idiots. Right in front of them, he empties his gun bullets, hitting the floor one by one. He throws out some threats, and these guys think it's hilarious. Hutch, already a powder keg of frustration, just explodes. He goes absolutely ballistic on these guys, taking a few hits but dealing out way more than he's getting. He's about to wrap things up when this kid Teddy thinks he's clever, grabbing the gun Hutch ditched and loading it up to try and get the drop on him. Bad move. Hutch crushes his throat with a pole, causing him to choke. Then, in a weird twist, Hutch actually saves the kid's life MacGyver style with a straw to help him breathe. He walks off the bus like it's no big deal. Hutch even apologizes to the driver for the mess. Hutch gets home to find Becca sitting in the dark, waiting. She wants to know where he's been. He plays it cool, like he didn't just demolish 5 guys on a bus. As she tenderly cleans his wounds, Hutch opens up about their marriage. He tells her how far apart they've grown, how their marriage has lost its spark. "We haven't embraced in far too long, you seem so far away. I miss you," he confesses. Becca responds by removing that barrier pillow, finally showing some real affection. But Hutch doesn't realize his little bus adventure is about to turn his quiet life upside down. Cut to Russian mob boss Julian Kuznetsov making his entrance at a club. He puts on a show singing and dancing on stage before getting down to business with some associates. They start talking about Obshak, a company handling billions in Russian mob pension funds that Julian's tired of babysitting. His shareholders are questioning his competence, so he puts one of them down right there. "Anyone else want to question my methods? Nothing like a murder to restore confidence, right?" Then his phone rings. Turns out the kid Hutch throat punched? That's Julian's baby brother, Teddy. Julian stands by Teddy's hospital bed, looking at his brain-damaged brother. He's convinced this attack must be connected to the Obshak. In classic mob boss style, he tortures Teddy's friends for information. One of them hands over a subway card found during the fight their only lead. The next day, Hutch is practically glowing, even complimenting his son. "When you made that tackle, that was a good takedown. I am proud of you." But his bubble bursts when his brother Harry calls with a warning. Hutch has crossed paths with Julian and needs to see the barber as soon as possible. Despite Hutch's initial brush-off, Harry's insistence gets him moving. The barber drops the bomb. The kid whose throat Hutch crushed is the brother of an incredibly wealthy Russian crime lord. The barber suggests Hutch get his family out of Dodge, noting that at least Julian doesn't know who he is yet. Meanwhile, Julian's team traces the subway card to Hutch's father's nursing home. His secretary blackmails a Pentagon worker for Hutch's file. The initial report shows nothing special, but when the secretary gets the full file, she's so terrified she bolts without even asking for payment. "I am out. No need to pay." Back at home, Hutch appears happy, cooking dinner and suggesting an Italian vacation. "How about we all head to Italy this summer?" Becca responds with a smile. "That would be wonderful." The house buzzes with renewed energy, like old times, but when Hutch spots cars pulling up outside, he knows they're in deep trouble. Without missing a beat, he hustles everyone down to the basement. "Is this a game, Dad?" his son asks, confused by the sudden change. Ignoring their concerned looks, Hutch makes them swear not to dial 911. What happens next is pure chaos. Hutch goes full John Wick on the intruders, dropping bodies left and right. But even a one-man army runs out of steam. Finally, they get him with a taser. They toss him into their car like a sack of potatoes. But Hutch isn't done yet. He snaps his own thumb to slip out of the cuffs, grabs a fire extinguisher, and blinds his captors. The car goes sideways, and before Pav's death, Hutch drops his real identity on him, like he's talking about the weather. He races home to get his family out of the basement. He rings up his old man with the heads up and releases his family from their hideout. He covers his daughter's eyes so she doesn't see what's left of the bad guys decorating their living room. Becca's looking at him like she's seeing a stranger, desperate for some kind of explanation. Hutch says. "Come on, you gotta give me something." "I will, but not now." She makes him swear he'll come back to them before loading up the kids and driving away. Hutch arranges all the bodies on the couch like some twisted family portrait and starts spilling his confession. It turns out Hutch was actually a government hitman, specializing in taking out targets who thought they were untouchable. He was the bestuntel he let one mark live. Years later, Hutch finds out this guy's living his best life with a new family. I am not a jealous guy, but in that moment, I wanted what Alan had. That's when Hutch decided to quit. Despite his boss throwing a fit, he tried his best to bury that life since then. In a twist of irony, the kitten bracelet that started this whole mess lays under the couch. Before torching the place, he gives his dead audience a little chemistry lesson about bones and high temperatures. Fun fact, bones burn to ash at 1,500 Dufour, so they won't be finding you among the rubble. Deep down, Hutch admits he knew this normal life thing was just borrowed time. He sets the whole place ablaze, grabs one family photo, steals his bragging neighbor's new car, and takes off. Meanwhile, at the nursing home, two hitmen think they're being slick, creeping up on Hutch's father while he's sleeping. The old man might be collecting Social Security, but he hasn't lost his touch. Both hitmen hit the floor before they know what hit them. Cue the nurses running in, following the gunshot echo. In the final scene, Hutch dumps a bag of gold bars on Eddie's desk, announcing his takeover of the company. His brother-in-law tries to play tough guy, but in the next second, he's nearly in tears. Cut to Julian watching the news. His face darkens as he learns Pav's death was at Hutch's hands. Meanwhile, Hutch temporarily shuts down the factory and makes it into his personal armory. His desk disappears under piles of weapons and ammo. Harry's voice crackles over the radio, scolding him. But Hutch couldn't care less. He has a plan. He heads straight for where the thugs are counting their obshak money. The minute he walks in, all hell breaks loose. In the middle of the chaos, he grabs a Van Gogh painting before turning the place into an inferno, watching as Julian's fancy art collection and mountains of money go up in smoke. Fresh off his demolition job, Hutch rolls up to Julian's club, enjoying his meal. Julian's got his goons all around him, but Hutch has an ace in the hole, a bomb under a napkin with the detonator right in his palm. The threat works. Everyone backs away as Julian sits across from Hutch. Just when Hutch drops the bomb, he's burned everything Julian owned to ashes. "I am shocked. You should have seen it go up. It was something," Hutch says casually. Julian's practically foaming at the mouth, but Hutch lays out his options nice and simple. Either chase me down, or grab what little cash is left and hit the road. Then, Hutch just walks out, bombs still in hand, while everyone stays frozen in place. Enraged, Julian mobilizes everyone to hunt Hutch down, leading to an intense shootout on the streets. But Hutch isn't alone. His father, David, tired of nursing home monotony, and brother Harry join the fight. These guys are old pros, setting up traps that would make Home Alone look amateur. They're taking out bad guys left and right until it's just Julian standing. After Julian manages to shoot Harry, Hutch decides enough's enough. He rigs up a claymore mine to some bulletproof glass, and Julian's story comes to an explosive end. Hutch shares a look with Harry and David as they bail. Just ahead of the cops, he leaves a sweet message for Becca. And right then, like some kind of sign, a little kitten shows up out of nowhere. So there he goes, walking away with the painting and his new feline friend. He's arrested by the police but remains calm, lighting up a smoke and even breaking out some cat food. The officers are getting nowhere with their questioning. "Me? Nobody," Hutch says coolly. Then his phone rings, and we can see his face change. Suddenly, Hutch is walking free. No questions asked. 3 months down the line, he's house hunting with Becca when his phone rings again. His services are still needed. The movie wraps with Harry and David hitting the road in an RV, heading to an undisclosed location.